CSS property. Accent color. This specifies an accent color for user interface control. Align content. This specifies the alignment between the lines inside the flexible container when the items do not use all available space. Align item. This specifies the alignment for items inside the flexible container. Align self. This specifies the alignment for selected items inside a flexible container. All. This resets all properties except Unicode, BIDI, and direction. Animation. A shorthand property for all the animation properties. Animation delay. This specifies a delay for the start of an animation. Animation direction. This specifies whether an animation should be played forward, backward, or in alternate cycles. Animation duration. This specifies how long an animation should take to complete one cycle. Animation fill mode. This specifies a style for the element when the animation is not playing, before it starts, after it ends, or both. Animation iteration count. This specifies the number of times an animation should be played. Animation name. This specifies a name for the at keyframes animation. Animation play state. This specifies whether the animation is running or paused. Animation timing function. This specifies the speed curve of an animation. Backdrop filter. This defines a graphical effect to the area behind. Backface visibility. This defines whether or not the back face of an element should be visible when facing the user. Background. This is shorthand property for all the background properties. Background attachment. This sets whether a background image scrolls with the rest of the page or it is fixed. Background blend mode. This specifies the blending mode of each background layer, color, or image. Background clip. This defines how far the background color or image should extend within an element. Background color. This specifies the background color of an element. Background image. This specifies the origin position of the background image. Background origin. This specifies the origin position of a background image. Background position. This specifies the position of a background image. Background repeat. This sets if or how a background image will be repeated. Background size. This specifies the size of the background image. Border. A shorthand property for border width, border style, and border color. Border bottom. A shorthand property for border width, border bottom style, and border bottom color. Border bottom color. This sets the color. Border bottom left radius. This defines the radius of the border of the bottom right color. Border bottom right radius. This defines the radius of the border of the bottom right color. Border bottom style. This sets the style of the bottom border. Border bottom width. This sets the width of the bottom border. Border collapse. This sets whether table borders should collapse into a single border or be separated. Border color. This sets the color of the four borders. Border image. A shorthand property for all the border image properties. Border image outset. This specifies the amount by which the border image area extends beyond the border box. Border image repeat. This specifies whether the border image should be repeated, rounded, or stretched. Border image slice. This specifies how to slice the border image. Border image source. This specifies the path to the image to be used as a border. Border image width. This specifies the width of the border image. Border left. A shorthand property for all the border left properties. Border left color. This sets the color of the left border. Border left style. This sets the style of the left border. Border left width. This sets the width of the left border. Border radius. A shorthand property for the four border radius properties. Border right. This is a shorthand property for all the border right properties. Border right color. This sets the color of the right body. Border right style. This sets the style of the right body. Border right width. This sets the width of the right body. Border spacing. This sets the distance between the border of adjacent cells. Border style. This sets the style of the foreborder. Border top. This is a shorthand property for border top with border top style and border tab color. Border tab color. This sets the color of the top border. Border top left radius. This defines the radius of the border of the top left column. Border top right radius. This defines the radius of the border of the top right column. Border top style. This sets the style of the top border. Border top width. This sets the width of the top border. Border width. This sets the width of the four borders. Pattern. This sets the element position from the bottom of its parent elements. Box decoration break. This sets the behavior of the background and border of an element at peak break. Box shadow. This attaches one or more shadows to an element. Box sizing. This defines how the width and height of an element are calculated. Should they include padding? Break after. This specifies whether or not a page column or region break should occur after the specified element. Break before. This specifies whether or not a page column or region break should occur inside the specified element. Break inside. This specifies whether or not a page column or region break should occur inside the specified element. Caption side. This specifies the placement of the table caption. Caret color. This specifies the color of the cursor in input text at chassis. This specifies the character of encoding used in the style sheet. Clear. This specifies what should happen with the element that is next to a floating element. Clip. This clip an absolutely positioned element. Color. This sets the color after. Column count. This specifies the number of columns an element should be divided into. Column fill. This specifies how to fill columns, balanced or not. Column gap. This specifies the gap between the columns. Column row. This is a shorthand property for all the column row properties. Column row color. This specifies the color of the rule between columns. Column row style. This specifies the style of the rule between columns. Column row width. This specifies the width of the rule between columns. Column span. This specifies how many columns an element should span across. Column width. This specifies the column width. Columns. This is a shorthand property for all column width and column count. Content. This is used with the before and after pseudo elements to insert generated content. Content increment. This increases or decreases the value of one or more CSS contents. Content reset. This creates or resets one or more CSS contents. Cursor. This specifies the mouse cursor to be displayed when pointing over. Direction. This specifies the text direction or writing direction. Display. This specifies how a certain HTML element should be displayed. Empty cells. This specifies whether or not to display borders and background on empty cells in a table. Filter. This defines effect of an element before the element is displayed. Flex. This is a shorthand property for the flex row, flex shrink, and the flex basis properties. Flex basis. This specifies the initial length of the flexible items. Flex direction. This specifies the direction of the flexible items. Flex flow. This is a shorthand property for the flex direction and the flex wrap properties. Flex grow. This specifies how much the item will grow relative to the rest. Flex shrink. This specifies how the item will shrink relative to the rest. Flex wrap. This specifies whether the flexible items would wrap or not. Float. This specifies whether an element should float to the left, right, or not at all. Font. This is a shorthand property for the font style, font variant, font weight, font size, and the font family properties. At font fees, a rule that allows websites to download and use fonts other than the web-safe fonts. Font family. This specifies the font family for text. At font feature value, this allows authors to use a common name in a font variant alternate for feature activated differently in open type. Font feature settings. This allows control over advanced typographical features in OpenType fonts. Font kerning. This controls the usage of the kerning information our letter are spaced. Font language override. This controls the usage of language-specific lives in a typeface. Font size. This specifies the font size. Font size adjust. This preserves the readability of text when fonts fall back count. Font strength. This selects a normal, condensed, or expanded face from a font family. Font style. This specifies the font style for text. Font synthesis. This controls which missing typeface may be synthesized. Font variant. This specifies whether or not a text should be displayed in a small caps font. Font variant alternative. This controls the usage of alternate glyphs associated to alternative names defined in font feature values. Font variant caps. This controls the usage of alternate glyphs. Font variant East Asian. This controls the usage of alternate glyphs for East Asian scripts. Font variant ligature. This controls which ligatures and contextual fonts are used in textual content of the element. Font variant numeric. This controls the usage of alternate glyphs for numbers, fractions. Font variant position. This controls the usage of alternate glyphs of smaller size positioned as subscript or superscript. Font weight. This specifies the weight of a font. Gap. This is a shorthand property for the row gap and the column gap properties. Grid. This is a shorthand property for the grid template rows, grid template column, grid template areas, grid auto rows, grid auto columns, and the grid auto flow. Grid area. This either specifies a name for the grid item, or this property is a shorthand property for the grid row start, grid column start, grid row end, and grid column end properties. Grid auto columns. This specifies a default column size. Grid auto flow. This specifies how auto place items are inserted in the grid. Grid auto rows. This specifies a default row size. Grid column. This is a shorthand property for the grid column start and the grid column end properties. Grid column end. This specifies where to end the grid item. Grid column gap. This specifies the size of the gap between columns. Grid column start. This specifies where to start the grid item. Grid gap. This is a shorthand property for the grid row gap and the grid row end properties. Grid row. This is a shorthand property for the grid row start and grid row end properties. Grid row end. This specifies where to end the grid item. Grid row gap. This specifies the size of the gap between rows. Grid row start. This specifies where to start the grid item. Grid template. This is a shorthand property for the grid template rows, grid template columns, and the grid area properties. Grid template areas. This specifies how to display columns and rows. Grid template columns. This specifies the size of the columns. Grid template rows. This specifies the size of the row. Hanging punctuation. This specifies whether a punctuation character may be placed outside the line box. Height. This sets the height of an element. Hyphens. This sets how to split words to improve the layout of paragraphs. Image rendering. This specifies the type of algorithm to use for image. At import. This allows you to import a style sheet into another style sheet. Isolation. This defines whether an element must create a new stacking content. Justify content. This specifies the alignment between the items inside a flexible container. At keyframes. This specifies the animation code. Left. This specifies the left position of the positioned element. Letter spacing. This increases or decreases the space between characters in a text. Line break. This specifies how or if to break lines. Line height. This sets the line height. List style. This sets all the properties for a list in one declaration. List style image. This specifies an image as a list item marker. Line style position. This specifies the position of the list item markers. List style type. This specifies the type of list item marker. Margin. This sets all the margin properties in one declaration. Margin bottom. This sets the bottom margin of an element. Margin left. This sets the left margin of an element. Margin right. This sets the right margin of an element. Margin top. This sets the top margin of an element. Mask. This adds parts of an element by masking or clipping an image at specific places. Mask clip. This specifies the mask area. Mask composite. This represents a compositing in operation used on the current mask layer. with the mask layer below it. Mask image. This specifies an image to be used as a mask layer for an element. Mask mode. This specifies whether the mask layer image is treated as a luminance mask or as an alpha mask. Mask origin. This specifies the origin position of a mask layer image. Mask position. This sets the starting position of a mask layer image. Mask repeat. This specifies how the mask layer image is repeated. Mask size. This specifies the size of a mask layer image. Mask type. This specifies whether an SVG element is treated as a luminance mask or as an alpha mask. Mask height. This sets the maximum height of an element. Mask width. This sets the minimum width of an element. At media. This sets the style rules for different media types or devices or sizes. Mean height. This sets the minimum height of an element. Mean width. This sets the minimum width of an element. Mixed blend mode. This specifies how an element's content should blend with its direct parent background. Object fit. This specifies how the content of a replaced element should be fitted to the box established by its used height and width. Object position. This specifies the alignment of the replaced element inside its box. Opacity. This sets the opacity level of an element. Order. This sets the order of the flexible item relative to the rest. Reference. This sets the minimum numbers of lines that must be left at the bottom of a page or column. Outline. This is a shorthand property for the outline width, outline style, and the outline color properties. Outline color. This sets the color of an outline. Outline offset. This offsets and outlines and draws it beyond the border edge. Outline style. This sets the style of an outline. Outline width. This sets the width of an outline. Overflow. This specifies what happens if content overflows an element's box. Overflow wrap. This specifies whether or not the browser can break lines with long words if they overflow the container. Overflow X. This specifies whether or not to clip the left, right edges of the content if they overflows the element content. Overflow Y. This specifies whether or not to clip the top or bottom edges. Padding. This is a shorthand property for all the padding properties. Padding button. This sets the button padding of an element. Padding left. This sets the left padding of an element. Padding right. This sets the right padding of an element. Padding top. This sets the top padding of an element. Padding break after. This sets the page break behavior after an element. Page break before. This sets the page break behavior before an element. Page break inside. This sets the page break behavior inside an element. Perspective. This gives a 3D position. Perspective origin. This defines at which position the user is looking at the 3D. Pointer event. This defines whether or not an element reacts to the pointer event. Position. This specifies the type of positioning method used for an element. Quotes. This sets the type of quotation mark for embedded quotations resized. This defines if an element is resizable by the user. Right. This specifies the right position of a positioned element. Row gap. This specifies the gap between the grid rows. Scroll behavior. This specifies whether to smoothly animate the scroll position in a scrollable box instead of a straight jump. Tab size. This specifies the width of tab character. Table layout. This defines the algorithm used to lay out table cells, rows, and columns. Text align. This specifies the horizontal alignment of text. Text align last. This describes how the last line of a block or line right before a first line break is aligned when text align is justified. Text combine upright. This specifies the combination of multiple characters into a space of a single character. Text decoration. This specifies the decoration added to text. Text decoration color. This specifies the color of the text decoration. Do remember to click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Text decoration style. This specifies the style of the line in the text decoration. Text emphasis. This applies emphasis mark. Text indent. This specifies the indentation of the first line in a text block. Text justify. This specifies the justification method. Text orientation. This defines the orientation of the text in a line. Text overflow. This specifies what should happen when text overflows the containing. Text shadow. This adds shadow to text. Text transform. This controls the capitalization of text. Text underline position. This specifies the position of the underline which is set using the text decoration property. Tab. This specifies the tab position of a positioned element. Transform. This applies a 2D or 3D transformation. Transform origin. This allows you to change the position of transformed elements. Transform style. This specifies how nested elements are rendered in 3D. Transition. This is a shorthand property for all the transition properties. Transition delay. This specifies when the transition duration. This specifies how many seconds or milliseconds a transition effect takes to come. Transition property. This specifies the name of the CSS property the transition effect is for. Transition timing function. This specifies the speed curve of the transition effect. Unicode BIDR. This is used together with the direction property to set or return whether the text should be overridden to support multiple languages in the same document. User select. This specifies whether the text of an element can be selected. Vertical align. This sets the vertical alignment of an element. Visibility. This specifies whether or not an element. White space. This specifies how white space inside an element is handled. Windows. This sets the minimum number of lines that must be left at the top of a page or column. Width. This sets the width of an element. Word break. This specifies how words should break when reaching the end of a line. Word spacing. This increases or decreases the space between words in a text. Word wrap. This allows long unbreakable words to be broken and wrapped to the next line. Writing mode. This specifies whether lines of text are laid out horizontally or vertically. Set index. This sets the stack order of a positioned element. Thank you so much, guys, for coming this far with us, as we appreciate your views so much. Kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel for more updates, and you can also follow us at Decode on Instagram for more updates. Please do. We appreciate you for watching once again. Stay tuned, guys. Decode family cares. Yeah, bye.